You're invited to get weird with us, with the woo-woo crowd. Welcome to our channel. This is where every day an alternative healing, spirituality, and creativity collide. You're going to meet Steph, myself, Katie, and a ton of other interesting humans. Today you're going to meet Jen, a military veteran turned poet who is using poetry to heal from SA and other trauma throughout her life. And just a heads up before we get started, we know there are some portions of this video that get a little crackly. We live in the middle of nowhere. It happens when cell phones and internet lose service. So we wanted to keep it in there for authenticity so you don't lose any of Jen's amazing, inspiring, but also really emotional story. So without further ado, meet Jen.
Okay, so before we even get into anything or meet anybody, I want to issue a trigger warning. We will be discussing very serious assault type topics, and if that's going to trigger you in some kind of way, step away. With that being said, you know Katie and me, and I want to introduce to you my friend Jen, who is an Army veteran. Jen, discuss what you are okay with. Don't feel like you have to indulge too much about your trauma, but if you want to share, but whatever you're comfortable.
Steph said, I'm an Army veteran. I was in the military from 93 to 2001. When I was stationed in Germany, which was 95 and 96, 97, 98, I was in a unit. I was a PFC, which is an E3, and I was raped by my sergeant, who was an E7, or a sergeant first class. He was in my direct chain of command, right underneath our first sergeant. And back in those years in 95, 96, mental health wasn't even really a thing yet. So when it happened, I had told one of my friends and ended up going to my first sergeant. My first sergeant actually believed me, which I was kind of surprised because the rest of the unit didn't. I ended up pressing charges, and I also became pregnant. I was going to have an abortion, and one of my friends had taken me to the clinic to have the abortion, and I couldn't follow through with it. And so I ended up having a son. He's now 28 and one of the best human beings I know. I ended up pressing charges, and it took about a year to go to court martial. He was found guilty and ended up going to Leavenworth. Because mental health wasn't really a thing, there was no counseling or anything like that. So it was one of those things that you just kind of push down and try to keep moving forward. And being that I was in Germany too, I didn't have any family support or anything, just a couple of my friends. 2010, I started going to therapy. I ended up in 2015 being part of the military sexual trauma program. They have 5 different VA facilities that have this program to help women that have been through similar traumas. It was an inpatient program. I was in there for 4 months, and it was the best thing that I ever did. I was able to start finally healing and meeting other women that had been through the same thing as me. It was a big thing to me because you felt so alone, and being that you shoved that down for so many years, it's hard to open back up. But I had been suffering from anxiety and anxiety attacks and like nightmares and all these different things, which regular therapy helped me. But going to the program that the VA had, that was like big for me. I had developed a lot of unhealthy ways of coping with my trauma over the years, to the point where I had developed borderline personality disorder. I went through the program, and I learned a lot of different ways to start healing and also maintaining like my anxiety and all the things that go along with that.
Do you think being like inpatient helped you along better? Because
Absolutely.
in that situation, you can't really go home and escape.
Right.
There.
It just blocks everything else out. Like I was just able to focus on me because I was a single mom of 3 kids, and, I had worked a full-time job. And so I was able to, just focus on myself. And it was very intense therapy. Like I said, it was 4 months. So like we had a schedule from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. that we did different exercises, they used a lot of creative ways to help us like work through our trauma and stuff. The biggest way that I started working through mine, I started writing. We did a lot of journaling. And when I was graduating the program, I'm journaling into a poem that kind of described my journey through the 4-month process. And at the graduation, I read it to like all of my counselors and doctors and the patients and whatnot. And it is now part of the welcome packet to the program that they have throughout the country, which is really awesome, and I'm really honored for that. They also have it's a veterans art competition. It's nationally and it's held every year. So one of my counselors had asked me if I would enter into the program, and I ended up winning the 3rd place medal for the national. Like I got the bronze medal nationally, so that was even more exposure, for like my poetry. And I've learned over the years that my poetry has given other people a voice that they haven't been able to voice themselves. And so I've entered every year since then. So it's been like 10 years that I've been entering, and every single year I've gotten a national medal for one of my poems. This year I had written on pain management. Last year I wrote on suicide prevention. So like every year I pick a topic of something that I'm personally going through, because my poem is like my journey through the dark time of whatever that thing is. I'd like to share the poem. It's called Flight. Standing in front of that brick building, I'm scared of what's inside. My heart is pounding, my hands are shaking, I want to run and hide. Timidly, I take that first step. I walk through the door. My mind is racing, my knees are knocking, I enter the 3rd floor. I've rested all my faith and hope in this journey I'm about to begin. Will I heal? Will I finally have peace within? Standing in front of that brick building, tears fill my eyes. I realize I walk through the door with my head held high. Healing has started. I've learned to ride the wave. I'm no longer bound. I'm no longer pain's slave. In 30 short days, I'm finally seeing some light. My mind, my soul, my heart, they have finally taken flight. I'm looking down at what's below with a smile on my face. I'm learning where to put those demons. They all have their own place. A continuing work in progress doesn't happen overnight. My happiness is in knowing there's harmony and happiness in sight. I am not yet done here. There is still a lot of work to be done. I can, however, stand here proudly and tell you this battle I have won. Standing in front of that brick building with my wings spread wide, I'm ready to take flight, body, soul, and mind. My heart is full of compassion, forgiveness, and hope. Present promise of my future is beyond my eye scope. I am full of gratitude for every lesson I have learned, this newfound freedom with every tear I have earned. I am strong. I am beautiful. I am ready to explore. Watch my grace as I spread my wings, take flight, and soar. As I soar above, looking down at everything below, everything looks so much smaller because every demon I now know. The storms will come like they always do. The difference is I know where shelter is too. I know where danger lurks. I have a different route in which to fly. My new life, there is no limit in the open sky. And that was my poem for the...
Bravo. I've already heard it before, but
That's amazing. I love it. So inspiring.
Katie's the artsy one out of us. She is also a writer. That's why I thought it would be good for you two gals to chat. I am not
Absolutely.
a writer, but I can appreciate art.
Yeah. Jen, how often, I'm curious, so you said you write a poem pretty much every year, but in terms of writing just for yourself, how often do you write?
Not as much as I used to. I have chronic pain. I've been dealing with retire from my job 7 years ago because of it. And it's been a battle. I use a walker and a cane and a lot of other assistive equipment. So like, it's just something I've really been battling about everything I have lost in myself, the way people look at me now, like all the struggles that go along with losing so much of who I was. So that's like how the poem starts out. And then, but like I found through this past year that I still am the same person that I am. And it's been my battle, getting my mind right again. So usually probably for myself, I'd say every few months, but like that I finish a poem probably once a year.
Makes sense. Thank you.
What do you write?
Also just dabble in writing. I really paint more. So I paint pretty much every day. Any kind of like anything floral, nature, wild, abstract, and I paint for my anxiety. I don't really sell my paintings. I mean, maybe once in a while if someone asks me, but so I paint more than I write, but I have written in the past. I've done some entertainment journalism, some poetry just for myself. I've taught a few writing classes, so it's like really dabbling in it, honestly.
Nice. I've used like the suicide awareness poem that I wrote they asked me to read at a veterans function that they had up in Williamsport, and it was held at like an arts center thing. And that was really cool because the whole thing focused on suicide prevention. And there was a girl who spoke before I read my poem, and she talked about how her brother was in the military and had committed suicide. And I had to read this poem afterwards. And I was like, but I really try to use my poetry to help veterans, anybody really, but veterans is like my passion. And I want to put all my poems together and publish a book with them. And my like dream is to go around to the different VAs and poetry books and hand them out and, you know, spend time with veterans and stuff, because I've written on numerous topics about, you know, what I know a lot of veterans go through. And I had written one on, it's called Little Me. I entered that one into the contest, and it was about when I was abused as a child. And that one, I won third place. Like, I just picked different things of different, you know, things that I've been through in my life, which there's quite a few.
Yeah, you're resilient, if not anything.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it's really important. It's amazing that you're out there sharing it, because a lot of people think that these things only happen to them. And we know that's not true.
I think they just don't have a voice, or they don't know how to voice it. And I know I've been blessed with the gift to be able to, a lot of people really connect with my writing. And like even the thing where I did the suicide prevention one, the people that came up to me afterwards sharing their own story and, you know, how much it meant to them that I was able to put into words what they were feeling. And it brings such joy to me to, like, that is my passion. And I know it is, to just be able to be their voice that they don't have, and know that they're not by themselves, because that's the most important thing, is that you don't feel alone through all your traumas. Because a lot of times people have been through the same things, they have the same feelings, they just don't know how to voice them or cope.
If anyone wanted to read your poetry, how would they find it? Would they go to a website or?
Like, I have a couple that are published. There's one in Veterans Voices I had published. When I win the gold medal, which I've only done once, they publish it in the big magazine that they send out to all the VAs. So that was like huge to me. And they televised the whole, like, you go away for a week to the conference if you win the gold medal nationally, and you get to go, you know, meet all the people, all the veterans and stuff that won gold medals. And I only won one. So like that was the biggest one that was like, you know, shared with a lot of people. So my therapist, she's at the vet center, and she uses all my poetry for her patients in different ways. The pharmacy in Wilkes-Barre and the pain management team in Pittsburgh, they used my pain management poem this year. And I also was a guest speaker for the pain management. It was for the national, whatever they did. And I read my poem there. So like different times people have asked me to speak or read something, but I don't have it like that anybody can just look it up. That's why I want to get it published.
If you guys would want to send any well wishes to Jen or have her send you her poetry, her email is linked below in the description.
Anything I could help with, I want to get it out there. I know it helps people. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, so it's what I want to do. Got to use all the ugly for something good.
Exactly. Very, very true. It's amazing.
And it's very healing too, to be able to know that you're helping someone else, you know, through your experience.
Yeah. Most people don't survive that kind of thing. And
it was tough.
Well, yeah, but I mean, look at what came out of it. Like, you helped so many people and you found your passion. I mean, that to take a tragedy and have it become your purpose is, I would say, the exception, not the rule. You know, like, how blessed are you that you have found that fire inside of you, you know? Because I'm about to be 42 and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I thank you for sharing your story, because it's particularly horrific and probably not something that you want to talk about all the time. But I know there are a lot of people out there that feel alone until they hear a brave person come forward. So I appreciate you having those brass ovaries and sharing.
Yeah.
You have everybody's attention right now. What would you want to get out there? What's your message to women and men who have survived that kind of trauma, being that you have made it through to the other side? I mean, I know it forever changes you, but you are a stronger person now. So what would you say to those women and men who have been through such an ordeal? Like, what's your advice?
Speak up. There was 3 other females in my unit that came forward after he was convicted. And the reason why I reported him was because I didn't want it to happen to anyone else. And people are scared to speak up, or, they're afraid that they'll be looked down upon, or that they'll be blamed. A lot of times I was blamed when it happened to me. I mean, he was an E7, I was E3. He was black, I'm white. They made it all about race, and they made it about rank and those kind of things, and took one person to believe in me. My whole unit, when we were in the court martial, my whole unit was sitting on one side of the courtroom, and the 2 people that supported me were on my side. And when he was found guilty, he lied on a lie detector test, and it had been brought to light. It's not supposed to in court, so the jury wasn't in there, but his attorney was trying to make it about race and rank. And the judge was like, why don't we talk about the lie detector since we're going to do this? And so they busted him out in front of my whole unit. And that was like so much freedom for me, because I was harassed. Like, I was getting my tires slashed on my car. They made me the problem, sent me to a different duty, sent me to a different...
Writing is good. Journaling is good. Katie does art. Do you feel that having that outlet has been like a tool, like therapy is a tool to help you move this along in your healing journey?
Yes. Writing, just writing anything that comes in your head is, once you get it out, you get it out of your mind and down on a piece of paper or out of your mouth, whether you write or sing or play music. Katie paints, so she's letting that out through her hands. Anytime you're letting that trauma out of the body, you're starting the healing process. And I think it's so important. The VA is awesome with all the classes that you can take, and exercise is another way. Like, I used to run. That was another outlet that I had when I could. Just anything that you can, get that emotion to escape your body is healing.
Have you ever are you totally like a self-taught writer, or have you ever taken any classes in writing?
I've never taken any classes. All my poems, they don't follow any rules or any grammar checks or anything like that. It's just what's in my heart and comes out on paper.
I thought it was interesting how you said about moving it out of the body. Like, that's definitely for painting. My anxiety is just literally getting it out on the page, right? Just getting it out and letting it there and not letting it come back.
Yep.
Yeah. That's exactly why I paint. That's why a lot of my students paint too. A lot of my students too, like you were talking about chronic pain, things like that, they have things like cancer and autoimmune diseases, and, all those things. And they're really just seeking out the arts and expressing themselves creatively for healing. And I agree, it does work. You said it works. I think it works. I know Steph believes it works as well. So it's pretty amazing.
Steph, what do you do to release your emotion?
Sometimes healthy, sometimes not.
Healthy.
So I belong to a Native American drum circle, and we play the drums and we sing Lakota healing prayers. And that for me is a really good outlet, a very healing outlet. We do it twice a month. And when I come home that night, I have the best night's sleep ever. I just physically feel better. My mind is not, I'm a wreck. I think I feel more at peace. So a little unconventional, but does the trick, which you should come sometime.
I'd like to. I like to try anything new. I never even knew that existed,
Yeah. This is a really great group of people. And I'm trying to learn the language. It's a very hard language to learn.
There's my baby.
Jen has a really cute dog too.
He's right here.
Oh, hi, buddy.
That's Marley.
All right.
He's laying on the electric blanket.
Smart. Oh my gosh. Mozzie,
Yeah.
I don't want Mozzie to hear that, because now he's got one. Literally, he will.
He loves it.
So cute. Love it.
He's definitely my stress dog. He's my best friend.
He's a good boy.
Yes, he is.
I'd show you.
Jimmy. Mozzie's just staring into space.
I see his little head.
You see him? He buries himself under this green blankie whenever I'm working or, teaching or whatever. Filming YouTube videos. He just sits there usually. We don't get into trouble unless the Amazon driver or FedEx or someone pulls up there's a window right in front of me. So when that happens, he goes crazy, and then I'm like...
It takes a while to get him off of it.
Oh, yes. He's a relentless little thing.
They are special.
Yep.
This is the first dog I ever had.
All I need in life is art, writing, and dogs.
every subscribe, Jimmy here will get an extra treat.